history isn't just written in books. It's preserved in artifacts, in pictures, in stories that survive time itself. Today, we're going to go take a look at one of those museums here in Richmond, Virginia, that preserve the American Civil War story, so we can talk about the importance of why these museums exist, and talk about another museum that's going to be expanding here pretty soon and needs your help. So admittedly, it's been a while since I've been back to the Tredegar Iron Works and check out the history over here at the American Civil War Museum. And apparently, some things have changed. The Tredegar Iron Works, which used to encompass all the field behind me here and had ruins of the ironworks and everything back there that you could go walk around and explore, has now been gobbled up by an Alliance theater. That entire piece of property back there that once housed portions of the ironworks, ruins of it, if you will, is now gone. There's an entire amphitheater out here for concert venue down by the James River. And what was once in the ground is no longer there. The major portion of the ironworks that used to house the National Park Museum is still here, but it is no longer for public use that I can tell. And it looks like it is now for private use only. I don't know, kind of wonder what was lost whenever they tore it all apart to put in this concert venue. A museum, if it's done right, can house so many things and present history in a way that makes it easier for people to understand. A lot of museums come with price tags, tickets, things that you have to pay. A lot of these national parks, like the one I'm at right now in Petersburg, their museums are free to the public. But the museums are very small. They're not well presented. The displays are not very good. And I'll show you what I'm talking about here inside of Petersburg. decided to come out here to the American Civil War Museum today and check out what they got going on. There's a lot of artifacts here. A lot of things that you can't see anywhere else. You just kind of have to check it out for yourself. This is pretty amazing stuff. So moving right along here, we can see the sword and belt from Colonel Robert E. Lee. So I don't know if it's very visible with this camera or not, but you can see the two diaries here, one from the south, one from the north. Both brothers with that diary entry in it. Oh, that God would keep us from meeting other than two loving brothers should meet. It's amazing. Now moving right along here, you'll see that I'm probably going to stay pretty quiet so I don't disturb other people. But there's so much to cover here in this museum that I'm not going to catch everything. You definitely got to come out here and see it for yourself. Preservation is extremely important when it comes to history. Even more so important is how you display that stuff. If it's done in a professional manner with the right kind of context and information, you can learn a whole lot from things like this. Tucked into a modest building on Baltimore Street in Gettysburg, the Gettysburg Museum of History isn't the sweeping, pristine gallery most people picture when they think museum. Instead, it feels like a storeroom turned into a shrine. Every shelf, wall, and case pressed into service. Artifacts piled high. Many displayed shoulder to shoulder as though the building itself is straining to contain the weight of history. Stepping inside is an experience in sensory overload. Rifles leaning against walls, uniforms draped on mannequins, helmets and gear arrayed in glass cases, documents and photos pinned everywhere. It feels less like a polished display and more like an attic of wartime memory. But that intimacy, those tight quarters, lend it a kind of authenticity. You sense that someone, or many someones, have labored together what might otherwise have been lost. And now those items live here, however cramped. The museum's owner, Eric Dorr, envisions something bigger. He recently acquired the neighboring property at 223 Baltimore Street, planning to expand the museum and build a gathering place where historians and visitors can come together to share the stories behind the artifacts. Today, it currently boasts the largest collection of Easy Company artifacts still currently on display, and they hope that they can turn their dream into something much bigger and fitting for that collection. I just checked this item out here. It talks about the millions of horses, mules, and oxen that were aided during the war effort and used for the purpose of war. You can see these gloves here, the spurs from the American Civil War. And soldiers often carried what they called housewife on them. And here's one of the original ones here. They would carry things like sewing thread and needle, various things that they would need to take care of their uniforms or anything else that they had on them. And of course, various items in their pack would be toothbrush, maybe a multi-tool or something to eat with, go along with that canteen and that plate there. Down here is one of the most interesting items I've seen in this museum. This is a shoe worn by African American stoker, the CSS Harmony.
No words can describe the horrors around me. 2 men dead.
We did a video not too long ago about the Battle of Manassas, some of the first fights that happened. And here's a shirt and forge cap from Private Kennedy's uniform worn during the battle. 13th Virginia, Company H.
We were all afraid it would be over, and we got in the fight. Seems to be 1,000 miles.
I mean, that's some pretty amazing stuff there.
And the air was alive.
And then we have sketches here of the actual battlefield on canvas.
What do you suppose they're trying to do?
It's amazing.
They're trying to kill every mother's son of us. That is what they're trying to do.
The National Museum of the Civil War is in Richmond, Virginia. There's also one in Appomattox, telling the complete total story of the American Civil War through the lens of soldiers and civilians. They have a lot of artifacts put on display there. And as you'll see in our video, when we go through that museum, the displays are very well done. They're presented properly. And it's very important for a museum. Well, we're talking about another museum up in Gettysburg, and you'll see the videos that I have from there. Thanks to JD from History Underground, we kind of worked together on this video a little bit. He sent me some clips to put in it. That museum, although it's very small, it is free. It's open to the public, and it packs a punch. There's a whole lot inside there from World War II, World War I, one of the largest collections of Band of Brothers items that you ever want to see. And, of course, the American Civil War. A lot of things that were found there in Gettysburg are also on display inside that museum. But the museum's very small. The space is not enough to house the many different things that they actually have in their collection. And this is why they need the public's help. It's a nonprofit organization, and they're looking to expand, and they're going to expand in a big way. For years, the Gettysburg Museum of History has stood as one of the most intimate, densely packed repositories of American memory. Its rooms overflowing with artifacts that deserve more space, more light, and more reverence than their walls can currently provide. And today, for the first time, I'm sharing a glimpse of what their future might hold. As you watch the footage, you're seeing our first release of the drafted plans. Phase 1 of the expansion will feature a state-of-the-art World War I and World War II experience to showcase and interpret the collection. Also, in the Phase 1 expansion will be an immersive experience into the Easy Company collection to introduce Band of Brothers and World War II to another generation. Phase 2 will see a reimagining of the current space to showcase and interpret the Civil War and the presidential collections. So today I'm headed out to the Mariners Museum, which is right here in the background, and we're going inside to check out some of the items that they have on display from the shipwreck of the Monitor. Now, the Monitor itself, the ironclad from the Civil War, was a revolutionary thing. It was unlike anything else, really. The CSS Virginia and the Monitor had their fateful clash out here in Newport News a long time ago. But the sinking of the Monitor is the reason why we have this museum here in Newport today. And we're going to go inside and check out some of those items, and then we're going to talk about that ship and that sinking and the members aboard that ship. If you've ever wondered what it's like being inside the Monitor, this museum is probably about as close as it's going to get, as it takes you through several stations of what the Monitor would have looked like on the inside, including underneath where the turret was and the propeller shaft in the very end. And you can actually see the jack screw that's here too. they've actually recovered a lot of different artifacts, and they put them on display inside this museum. And you can see some of the things here. And one of my absolute favorite parts is actually walking inside of the mock-up of what the actual gun turret looks like now, which it's being preserved right now, and they're still working on trying to stabilize it so that they can one day recover more artifacts and possibly even take it out of the stabilization so it can be put on display. About 2013, I went out to Gettysburg for the very first time. I took the family out there. I wasn't yet creating videos or doing anything like that for YouTube, and was still in the military, as a matter of fact. But we went out there and we saw the battlefield for the very first time. And if you can imagine, remember back to the first time you ever went to Gettysburg or an American Civil War battlefield, imagine the shock and awe that went through my head as I was going around that field while my family was yawning in the back seat. Well, when I went there, I had seen the show American Pickers many times. I loved the show. And on American Pickers, they had featured a man that had a passion for American Civil War history. His name was Eric Dorr. Eric owned a museum there in Gettysburg and was looking for a few items to add to his collection. Well, I thought he was a small-time collector based on that video. But little did I know, this guy had a massive collection of just about everything. The first time I went to that museum was there in 2013. Me and my kids walked in through that door, and there was Eric standing behind the counter, manning the counter and greeting the customers as they walked in the door. We all walked in, we visited, walked around the tiny rooms that were inside there, and saw one thing after another that just, my jaw hit the floor. I couldn't believe what this man had inside his little museum there in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. But then he started talking about expansion. And here recently, they actually made a move to do that. They have another building that they're going to work on trying to expand the collection. The collection's so large that when asked about how much they do not have on display, I was told it's hard to tell the percentage of items that they have that they do not have on display. The impressive part about it is they're going to display Dick Winters and Easy Company's items, the largest collection of it, and it's going to be put on a proper presentation so that you can learn about the men of Easy Company and actually see the artifacts that came from those men that the HBO series was made about. Now, of course, everything takes cash to run. Everything takes money to operate. And they've been doing it a long time in that small building. And since they're looking to expand, they're actually trying to raise funds for the expansion. So in this video, that's kind of what I'm talking about. They're looking to the public for some help. I'm going to put a link in the description to where you can go and you can make a donation to the nonprofit organization. How much ever you can give, you know. I always talk about organizations doing good things for history, like the American Battlefield Trust and so on. And I give money from time to time to different organizations like that. I give most of my money to American Battlefield Trust. But it's a worthy cause, and I think that if you are looking for something to try to help expand and push beyond where it was before, and put something on display that people can access for free, the Gettysburg Museum of History is one of those places that needs that help. So if you have it to give, then go ahead and click that link that's in the description and give a donation and help out the museum. That's some pretty amazing stuff here. On display they have multiple items that belong to Robert E. Lee. His hat, for example. They got the field glasses that he used, and even a campaign chest down here at the bottom. I'm going to turn this camera around so you can see it. There's some pretty amazing stuff here too. Captain William Wright of the Confederate States was carrying this canteen when he was shot at the Battle of Glendale. Now, we covered a video on Glendale not too long ago, and I'll put a link in the description so you can go back and check that video out. This man was with Company F of the 55th Virginia Infantry when he died at Frazier's Farm. Now here's a stretcher that apparently was used up in Williamsburg area. Looks like it has the Longstreet Division listed on it. It's a pretty amazing artifact and in great shape. some pretty amazing stuff. Wow. Well, if you ever wanted to see something from Thomas Stonewall Jackson, this is about as close as it gets. That forage cap right there. That thing that was talked about so famously and probably pictured on top of his head. Some amazing items that are here. It's pretty amazing to see any of this stuff in here. The field glasses and a hat from J.E.B. Stuart from Yellow Tavern. Some of these jackets from private soldiers that are in here. And the way they're displayed is pretty neat. So here's stuff from the Atlanta campaign. It's almost overwhelming the amount of stuff that they have in here. And they don't leave anybody out. There's civilian attire. I mean, it shows you right here how people were having to make hats out of different types of material during that time because they didn't have materials to make things with. Elizabeth Van Lew. It's pretty crazy stuff. Oh, here's a neat experience. I'm gonna flip this camera around. There's a magnifying glass over here that we can use to scroll across some of these unique items, handmade items, and see if we can't get a good video of that. So we're nearing the end here. We're going into the 1865 portion. And still we have plenty to look at. Now remember, this was one big thing that used to be all together in one place. And then they kind of moved it around, and now it's in multiple different museums. Wow. Some gut-wrenching stuff over here. Well, I figured this would be as good of a backdrop as any to end the video here. The Tredegar Ironworks in the background, what's left of it, and then the the Alliance Theater that's completely blocked off the entire area over here, where there used to be a nice large field that you could walk around and check out the historical pieces of the ironworks still left out there in the yard. Well, I hope you've enjoyed our video here from Richmond and from Gettysburg, talking about both the American Civil War Museum that's here and contributing to other places in history, basically for the preservation of history and the display of history. I mean, honestly, if we forget to do these things, those stories will be lost forever. If not for places like the American Civil War Museum, Gettysburg Museum of History, things like that, that history is lost forever. Who knows where it goes? I hope you've enjoyed our video here from Richmond, Petersburg, and all the way to the Chesapeake Bay and back, and even up in Gettysburg. We hope that you'll help support that little museum that's up there in Gettysburg. Give them a hand. Until next time, this is History with Waffles.